I was always passionate, or what I was missing was also, always comparing that how is it different in South Asian community, or how is it different in India. That comparison always kept me thinking. And so when I was in Cincinnati, I started a group for seniors. When we migrate as people in United States, we don't migrate as individuals. We are such a family oriented community that with us, will come our parents, our cousins, our brothers, our sisters, sometimes as visitors, sometimes eventually they'll just migrate. And especially if you think about parents, eventually they end up migrating because they don't have any option. If people like you and me decide that we are not going back home, what is going to happen to our parents who depend on us, right? And so that migration happens. And so there is this another big section that I observed while I was in Cincinnati. And I saw that this subsection was very, very lonely, very, very aloof, although they were living with their kids, with their sons, daughter in laws, but still they were not assimilated, they were not integrated into the system. They felt like alien till longest. The kids or their sons and daughters, daughter-in-laws were so busy making their life that really they did not have much time for the parents. And so I started to feel really, really bad about that fact. And so I had two other physician friends. One was a geriatrician and one was a psychiatrist. And so three of us met on coffee for several times, and we had this gigantic idea that we need to do something more for the society above and beyond our normal jobs. And we had like big, big, big ideas that we discussed, but really nothing that we put in action till long. And then we decided, let's do something small. And we decided to organize these parents who were there in Cincinnati. And although Cincinnati is a small size, mid-sized city, you will be surprised to know that there are many South Asian immigrant parents who live there. And so we started with a small idea of organizing them in our basements and just calling them for chai and samosas, and give them some safe space to make their own independent connections. But I mean to say, to our surprise, our first launch, our idea grew big. As people started to hear about our idea, we started to put the mailing list out to invite them. We had like so much response, and then our community people said, hey, why basement? I have this place which I don't use in the daytime. Come do it here. Then one of the Indian restaurant person said, I will give you food for really, really minimal. Come do that. And that became like a big deal. We had like almost close to, if I'm not wrong, close to 70 plus seniors who came to our first event. And it was such a hit. And I mean to say, this story is almost, I should tell you, 10, 11 years old. And we ran that group for many, many years. Like we as three founders ourselves, we used to do that as our community work. And then one had some other thing. She branched out. I had to move out of Cincinnati, and there was the question that what will happen to Apna Sapna Club? It's called Apna Sapna Club. And so people said, no way that you're closing this. We depend on this. So then there was some other people who came up to the table. And I mean to say, the lovely fact is that Apna Sapna Club is still going on. And it is going on healthy. And that's where I got to learn that there is so much problem, and especially in California, because California is big, much different than Ohio. The immigration is of different kind. There are all kind of people from all the stratas. The myth that South Asians are affluent, they are only doctors and engineers. I saw that myth here, that we are not only educated people, we are uneducated, we are poor, we are working behind the stores. We are on, working for the hotel, restaurants. We are servers. So that was a new reality that I saw when I came to California. It was a shocker for me myself, and I saw that there are so many social problems like domestic violence. I was living in a bubble thinking that we don't do that. South Asians are very family oriented, very, nice people. And we are nice people. But the truth of the reality is that domestic violence happens a lot in our immigrant community. And it is not only limited to the income level disparity. It also happens in high earning families, and especially the people who come here on visas. The H1 H4 visas, J1 J2 visas, L1 L2 visas. Because there is a very unique phenomenon that goes on in that community. The wives or the dependents are sacrificing a lot to be here in United States, and they are isolated. They are brought away from their families. They most of these ladies are highly educated, either MBAs, MHAs, you name it, or physicians or nurses, but they are not able to do anything. Their life is, brought down to a childlike life where they are just limited to their apartments, not even a house when you begin your journey, right? And so this is the perfect recipe to brew domestic violence. And so I saw so many such cases when I was with that organization. I learned so much about, the behaviors of immigrants, coming into United States, and the South Asian culture mix, how it is making it so complicated. I, as a clinician, got very intrigued. I wanted to do research. I wanted to write. I wanted to understand the whole phenomenon. I really wanted to do so much more than what I was getting to do there. They hired me. I was working for that organization and in capacity of a director of programs, clinical director. Different capacities, different time. But I wanted to do more. And so then I branched out to start Saahas for Cause, because there is need of many organizations like Saahas for Cause, because the problem is humongous, and the time is less, hands are few. We need to do so much work, and so that was the reason why I started Saahas for Cause. You start as volunteers. In the beginning you have passion, you have a group of people who will say yes, this is great, I'll do it. The passion is great, but the problem eventually is sustaining. How do you sustain so much work only on basis of volunteers? So when Saahas started, we started all of these great programs that some of them started organically. So we started with older adult program. I told you the story of Apna Sapna Club, and I had started the similar Apna Sapna Club in the other organization. So I knew that that's the need here too. And so we started a similar wellness group for seniors in LA County and Orange County again. And this time we named it Mauj Masti Sehat. We did not want to borrow the name of Apna Sapna Club again because it will become very confusing. So it's called Mauj Masti Sehat, and that's how we started our volunteer work. We started to organize South Asian seniors again, and it just hit the ground, and it was much needed, and it's still going on very successfully, and it's one of our very very important pillars of operation. And then came the need of women. As we started our operations as volunteer, we started to get approached by so many females in South Asian community, that I know that you are helping women. I want to meet you secretly. I'm going through a lot. And one phone call, and the second phone call, and the third phone call. So our women wellness, chapter was born that way, because we had a need of a clinician, we had a need of a case manager, we had a need of somebody who was going to, and so as volunteers, we started to do that. And then somebody approached me that you're doing such amazing work. My youth who's going to this school, would love to join for the community hours. I want them to learn. I want them to understand the importance of community work. And so with five youth, we started our youth program. So this was all we were doing as volunteers, but the work started to grow very, very fast, and then COVID hit. And then there was so much more need in the community, especially the youth and the seniors and the women. The three people who, the three buckets who we had started, they all were getting panicked. They all were getting stressed. Our seniors were lonely. They had so many questions. Depression, anxiety was rising like anything. And so we had to increase the number of volunteers. We in the crisis, we launched so many online programs just to keep our community engaged. That's when our Things We Carry that we run right now, at that time we called it Sunday Sari series, where we thought sari is the best way to bring our seniors on, out of their cocoon and start communicating to us. We just wanted them to talk. We just wanted them to communicate so that, they could talk about their, different things going through their mind. So the names were different then than what they are today, but they were initiated in that time of crisis, the time of need that our community had. And so, yes, it was very challenging, but I don't know where we got the energy at that time, because there was so much happening that, we all just rolled our sleeves up and we said we are doing it. And we were all volunteers at that time, getting nothing for ourselves, but maybe putting the resources from our own pockets. We started to get a little bit of donation at that time, but very, very less. And I was, because I love to write, I was writing to foundations, I was writing to different grants, and I was getting rejected, because I was so new. Nobody knew what Saahas for Cause is, what are they doing. Slowly we started to build our online presence, and that was all volunteer run even at that time. So we did not realize that this organization is actually building when we are doing these projects, and we did not realize what we are signing up for. And we got, when I was writing, so I wrote a grant, and we hit a jackpot. We wrote a grant which was Department of Public Health, CDC, supported grant, and our proposal was very, very realistic, very, very crude. We put all the pictures of what we do, and it was very, probably today I would be like, oh my God, that is the kind of a proposal I wrote. And our proposal got selected. They loved what we were doing, and they said, we want you to do this work. And that was our first very big grant, formal project that we got, and which formalized Saahas. We have to be ready with our boots on, and as a leader, it's my responsibility to educate the rest of the community. Either they are other Asians, Caucasians, African American, about who South Asians are, so that that process of acculturation, is a big thing. We are trying to settle in here, but we also need to make people who we are going to live with understand who are these new neighbors. How do I adjust to them? How do I accept them better? So that probably is a role of a leader like me, that I need to get out of my comfort zone and start these conversations with these other communities. I need to be present at many tables like Department of Mental Health. They need to know that, if you are the Department of Mental Health for SoCal, then you need to understand, you need to know that, there is a big subgroup of immigrant community, which is called South Asian immigrant community. And South Asian is a big conglomerate. There are many, many different people who are in South Asia. They speak many different languages. They are very different culturally. They have many different mannerisms. And so I feel that it is very important to be on the table so that I can talk to these mental health, Department of Mental Health leaders that, when you are planning your budgets, when you are planning your programs, think about this subset. they also have similar issues. They have mental health issues, but they don't come to the clinics most often. That's why the numbers are low. That's why you think that South Asians, they are very good. They don't need mental health. So the numbers are not doing justice, because we really don't go to the clinics. We are trying to resolve a lot on our own. So there is a big need of education and prevention work in the community in all the tiers, where we need to go and educate these office bearers, either they are LA County, Orange County, mental health, public health. We need to go and talk to them and explain them that this is how domestic violence happens in South Asian community. Domestic violence is not limited to the husband and a wife or a boyfriend and a girlfriend. It can also happen with mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, sister-in-law and daughter-in-law, daughter-in-law and brother-in-law. So there are many different ways and forms that violence happens in our family, and you need to know so that you can write the policies accordingly, so that you can allocate the prevention money accordingly. So that, and that is very important to do, because if the money is not allocated, organization like Saahas cannot do anything. With being a volunteer, having a passion, you can only run till a limit and then you'll halt. You need that engine, that fuel in your engine to run. So these are important conversations that need to happen. You came here for a reason. You are a contributing member to the community. You are growing the community. You have rights. You have rights to give a better quality of life to yourself and to your family. So that is the other opposite part of the education that Saahas does to the South Asian community, that you have rights, you are a legitimate member of this society. As you have rights, you also have duties. You need to go out and vote. You need to go out and get the vaccination done. You need to do all the things that any other American would do. So those are my learnings, that we need to be out there and communicating all the time in all of these different tiers, and that is what our prevention work is geared towards.
I think that there are so many valuable resources that Saahas provides for our community, and we should all continue to support and grow these efforts.